Christ is in our midst. Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Today, on August 30th, we commemorate the Apodosis of the Feast of the Forerunner, as well as Saints Alexander, John, and Paul the New, Patriarchs of Constantinople. Saint Alexander was sent to the First Ecumenical Council in Nicaea as the delegate of Saint Mitrophanes, Bishop of Constantinople, whose throne he succeeded in the year 325. When Arius had deceitfully professed allegiance to the Council of Nicaea, Saint Alexander, knowing his guile, refused to receive him into communion. Arius's powerful partisans threatened that they would use force to bring Arius into the communion of the Church the following day. Saint Alexander prayed fervently that God might spare the Church, and as Arius was in a privy place relieving nature, his bowels gushed forth in effusion of blood. The Archheresiarch died the death of Judas. Saint Alexander was bishop from 325 until 337, when he succeeded by Saint Paul the Confessor, who died a martyr's death at the hands of the Arians. Saint John, commemorated here, appears to be one who was patriarch during the years 562 to 577, surnamed Scholasticus, who was also commemorated on February 21st. He was from Antioch, where he had been a lawyer, hence the name Scholasticus. He was made presbyter, then was sent to Constantinople as representative of the Patriarch of Antioch, and was appointed Patriarch of Constantinople by Emperor Justinian. St. Paul was Bishop of Constantinople during the years 687 to 693 in the reign of Emperor Justinian II, and presided over the Quintiset Council in 692. O God of our fathers, ever dealing with us according to your justice, take not your mercy from us, but by their entreaties guard our life in peace. Aflame with love for Christ, you took his yoke upon yourselves, and since you emulated well his life upon the earth, ye were also made partakers of his great glory. Now, O fathers, Alexander the divinely wise, wondrous John, and glorious Paul, ye stand before his throne, wherefore fervently intercede with him to save our souls. From St. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. Brethren, Christ died for all, that those who live might live no longer for themselves, but for him who for their sake died and was raised. From now on, therefore, we regard no one from a human point of view, even though we once regarded Christ from a human point of view. We regard him thus no longer, hence because we know that Christ is raised from the dead and is God. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. This is why Christ is referred to as the new Adam, the new Anthropos, the new human, the new humanity, by which all humanity should be judged. So no longer can we look at ourselves and say, oh, I'm only human. Well, no. Humanity has now been redefined through the person of Jesus Christ. All this is from God, who through God reconciled us to himself and gave us a ministry to reconciliation. That is, God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. So we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We beseech you on the behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. For our sake he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. In other words, Christ, who had no sin in him, became the sacrifice for us who are full of sin, that we might be saved. From the Gospel according to St. Mark. At that time, Jesus, passing along the Sea of Galilee, saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net in the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men. And immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on a little farther, he saw James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, who were in their boats mending their nets. And immediately he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired servants, and followed him. And they went into Capernaum. And immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and taught. And they were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one who had authority, and not as the scribes being the lawyers who should know the law fairly well. But Christ speaks with absolute authority because obviously he is the lawgiver. Now, of course, to call them fishers of men is very, very important, because as a fisherman, they are using tactics for different kinds of fish. And as a fisher of men, you have to be even more clever. St. John Chrysostom said, you are dealing with animals, it's easy because you can convince an animal to do something through trickery. But a man uses reason and rationale, and so it is much more difficult. And so following after Christ, they are entering into a much more difficult enterprise than fishing for just fish. Now, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, are, by some traditions, Jesus Christ's half-nephews, as the wife of Zebedee, Salome, according to some traditions, was one of the children of Joseph, Jesus Christ's father in this world, stepfather really. And as such, these would have been Jesus' nephews. And so James, or John, the beloved disciple, would have been very dear and known to Jesus Christ. And so when he is telling them to leave their father, he is commanding them in a way that they would have not expected. And so their obedience to him is for us to be emulated. Because it would be one thing to say, oh, well, they knew him. Well, what he's asking them now is to abandon everything they knew, including their father, to become his disciples. Let us go and do likewise. I hope that you've enjoyed today's spiritual calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.